Welcome back to the broadcast. In this episode, I speak with Tasmanian legend David Foster. He talks about his sporting achievements, his passion for Tasmania and the community, and there's also a moment when I wave my magic wand and make him my political advisor, where he gives me some advice on how to get Labor back on track. If you're interested in all this, listen on. Welcome to the broadcast, and today I'm very pleased to have Tasmanian legend David Foster here with me to talk about the community and what he's up to and where he sees Tasmania should head. So welcome to the broadcast, David.
I'm very happy to be here, Shane. I've been watching your broadcast, and when was at the Cup, you said I wouldn't mind doing an interview. I said, well, why don't we come and do your podcast? So I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, thanks very much. We had a great day at the Devonport Cup. Probably not so good on picking winners, but I don't know. How did you go?
Well, one thing I've worked out that you never take notice of trainers, of horse trainers, because they've always got a winner. And I remember once my wife and I was at the Melbourne Cup, a night before the Melbourne Cup, and Gay Waterhouse was sitting at our table right next door to me, and we were talking there about life in general. And I said, I suppose you've got a couple of tips for us. Yes, David, I have. So she wrote 4 tips down, and I believe that they're still running. so I worked out that I just go by names, really. Yeah.
So I think virtually every Tasmanian knows who David Foster is, and I think that one of the things at the Devonport Cup, you did a speech in the Young Riders Club, or what was that?
Yeah, it was down with all the young ones.
Yeah, all the young ones, yeah,
dancing on the floor.
Or Young Tas Racing Club. I can't exactly remember. And you did this speech, and one thing that I was very impressed with was that the young people of Tasmania actually know who David Foster is, despite your axeman career being sort of a fair way behind you now.
Yeah.
But do you just want to give us a bit of an overview, I suppose, for people, if there's some random person out there who doesn't know who David Foster is, just a quick summary of who you are, what you've done, and then maybe we can talk about what you're up to now.
Somebody that's just landed in from Mars.
Might
not have known who David Foster is. Well, born and bred Tasmanian, very, very lucky that I had a family of woodchoppers in my background. My father being a world champion. On my mum's side, mum's brother was a world champion. Dad's uncle, Jim Foster, won world titles in 1930, and mum's uncle also world champion. So I was actually bred for wood chopping in a sense. My father kept saying, oh, David, you've been bred for wood chopping. Nobody could ever work out. Like I think everybody has a dream in this world. And my dream was hopefully to win one world title. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to win now 186 world titles. Won one world title 21 years straight. Captain the Australian team for 21 years. So I've done some extraordinary things. And I've always been my ancestors were first fleeters. So they were all sent to Port Arthur, and I'm just passionate about Tasmania. Tasmania's given me the opportunity to become one of the best athletes in the world, and if I can spread that word, that it makes no matter that we come from Tasmania and there's only 500,000 of us here, that you can achieve whatever you want in life, have a dream, work hard, and believe in yourself, and I think that comes across where I'm still talking to kids at school about, following their dreams and bits and pieces. So, I've been very, very lucky. I won my first world title in 1979 and won my last world title in 2015. So when you look at a sporting career, you've been a sportsman, and you know that opportunity comes only comes around once. So for my career to be as long, it's been unreal, really.
And you certainly talk about the influence of your family. You wouldn't remember, but when I was a young man, or very young, I went to a clearing sale at Sprent, I think, with my dad, and I saw you and your father, George, and I found, like, as a young person, where I actually interacted with you and your father, and you were amazing. You were so friendly and kind, even though you were probably at the peak of your your axeman's career at that stage, and I've always thought about that, and I've always remembered your father fondly too. And I remember my dad saying, "Yeah, those Fosters, they're good people."
Yeah, oh, that's
So
that's
yeah,
isn't it nice when you think that? To be honest with you, we had some friends over for coffee. Some people that I've met through the field days that I used to go to, and they're over here in Tassie for a holiday. Rang me up. I said, "Why don't you come around my place?" We had a coffee. We spent 2 hours, and he sent me a message yesterday to say, "David, you are such a humble person, but." Why wouldn't I be? Just because
mm,
I can cut wood better than anybody else in the world, we are no different. Everybody has got an art and it's got a gift. Yeah, like I've met a lot of people in this world, and I'm sure that you have too, Shane. Is that they are that far up themselves that that they think they are much better than anybody else, but really, we're actually put on this earth, and if we can do one good thing in that period that we've got on this earth, why not do it?
your passion for Tasmania obviously shines through in just about everything you do. But there are some things that Tasmania does really, really well. Obviously, wood chopping was one of
Yeah.
them, and there must have been a culture behind that. So you just want to talk us through the culture of the wood chopping and thinking, well, I'm a wood chopper in Tasmania. That means that I can actually be a world champion. I can do this. So how did that develop?
Yeah, well, I suppose when you look at the history of wood chopping, it started in Tasmania over 150 years ago. So here we are, have this sport, but I think with my family history, like my first world title that I won was with my dad. So imagine that in a sport, that how many opportunities do you get to be in a sporting field and to win the ultimate prize with the guy that you loved? Mate, it doesn't get much better than that. So I think sort of wood chopping, like in Tasmania when Dad was chopping, we had 20 world champions,
Mm,
household names, the Udes, the Sheriffs, the
yeah,
Frenches, the Stewarts. So all these famous names that kept Tasmania. Like I reckon a place called Maydena, right? Maydena, there was a lot of world champions lived at Maydena. Now, they might not have known, like the Udes, the Fosters, the Sheriffs, all come from Maydena. They were all world champions. So everybody in Sydney would have heard of Doug Ude come from Maydena. So they would have looked at Maydena,
yeah, yeah.
So I just think that no, I just love Tasmania because I think what's happened as a Tasmanian is that when you're on the world scene, Tasmania, we're inbred, you're backwood, and then I wanted to prove a point that just because we come from Tasmania, we can be the best in the world.
Mm.
And I always said that I wasn't from Australia, I was from Tasmania.
Me too,
Yeah,
always.
yeah, always, yeah,
Every time when I travel, I'm a Tasmanian.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, there was a bit of a culture, a really fantastic culture in my sport of rowing. So I came in to rowing. The world champs were at 1990 at Lake Barrington.
I remember being there.
I was a 16-year-old and I was a boat holder, and then I actually gave water to the medalists as they come up to get their medals. And I thought, yeah, I want to be part of that.
Yeah,
But what actually evolved in Tasmania was this amazing rowing culture where we all worked together, and you could train with, and you could race with, and you could race against people who were world champions, who were Olympic gold medalists.
yeah,
And we actually went through a period of probably 10 to 15 years where Tasmania well and truly worked above
yeah,
our numbers. So we had something like 3% of the rowers and we'd win 20% of the medals. Like, it was just incredible at
yeah,
national level. And that led to Olympic champions. And I remember Scott Brennan, who was a little bit younger than me, he really pushed that Tasmanian mindset. He said he goes to regattas and we should scare them because we're Tasmanian.
yeah,
They should go, that kid's from Tasmania, he's going to be good. And I'm good because I'm Tasmanian, because we have that struggle.
yeah,
And it certainly worked. And he ended up, obviously winning an Olympic gold medal.
yeah.
But I think we've sort of lost that culture a little bit in the sport of rowing, and we're probably not in as good a place now. But I think that's sort of happening a little bit across sporting codes.
Well, I think that's happening in life in general is that people are actually time poor. for some reason. So when I was working, it's the same as you when you first started off. You worked from Monday to Friday. You had every weekend off, and then maybe you might work of a Sunday to get overtime or what else have you. But now with the work culture that people are working all different shifts and working away, and like the culture has changed. Like I was. I got brought up with my mum being home, a stay-at-home mum all of her life. My wife was a stay-at-home mum for our 4 kids until the kids went to high school, and then she furthered her career. Well, life has changed. So unfortunately, kids today are really going to struggle in a sense. Like imagine your kids and my grandkids going to buy a house today. Man, they've really got it in front of them.
And I think they know that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's actually in their mind.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe that's driving, because I see at the moment that sporting clubs are struggling for members. Service clubs are really struggling for members.
Yeah.
Those community organisations that relied on volunteers are struggling.
Yeah.
And the 7-day trading, but maybe those financial pressures, as you're saying, have changed people's attitude to participating in the community.
Well, one thing I think you'll find, Shane, if you put your hand up to be a volunteer, it's going to cost you money. Okay, so therefore, every time you go and do a charity thing, it's costing you money out of your own pocket, and really, people are actually time poor, but they're actually money poor in a sense as well, because you would know yourself and myself, like you go to the grocery shop now, where it cost you $100, maybe 5 years ago, it's cost you $150 now.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a real issue. And I think that we are trying, but you look at Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and stuff, they're all getting older, and very hard to get young people in to do that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think that we change this? I know that we can go back to that speech you did. Footy clubs around the state have actually been struggling. We've seen, the Northwest clubs pull out of the statewide league over time. And I remember I went to the meeting when Bernie was making the decision whether to pull out of the statewide league or not. And one of the big issues was actually people didn't want to travel, didn't want to go to Hobart on the weekend and be away and so on. But obviously having a big carrot was a big motivator in that speech. You sat up there with Matty Richardson and talked about that. Do you want to just give us a bit of your thoughts on the impact of a Tasmanian footy team, how you think? I mean, I won't put words in your mouth, but what that may do to get people interested in footy and sport, and what Tasmania can do.
Well, I think Tasmania deserves a team. Like, we've had all these great footballers. We can talk about the Baldocs and the Hudsons and the Royce Harts and the Matthew Richardsons, and we can talk about those people. But one thing I've noticed after being out around the town is that I have had all these little kids come up to me and say, you know what, I'm going to play for Tasmania. So it gives them a dream, and I think what we've done, and it's a great thing, is with the jack jumpers. Okay, everybody was sort of doubtful about the jack jumpers. They didn't like the name and what else have you. But now they've been out there and we've been successful. Like I've been very lucky enough to have gone to a couple of the games and to see the kids dressed up,
absolutely,
and all the clappers and all that. Mate, how exciting it is! And this is a Tasmanian team. Tasmania deserves to be out there. All Tasmanians punch above their weight, and we've done it for years, and so it gives us Tasmanians the opportunity.
So, and we also see people drive from Smithton to go see Jack Jumpers games.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so the trouble is with Tasmanians is that I'm a Tasmanian, right? Okay, I know people in Sydney travel 2.5 hours to work of a morning. 2.5 hours.
Yeah, incredible.
I can go from Devonport to Hobart in 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours, depending on the traffic. Every day of the week. I can go to Launceston as you can every day of the week, 1 hour. Not unless there's roadworks, but you can do it without breaking any speed limits. You can go. So you're an hour from Launceston.
Yeah.
Here's these people traveling 2.5 hours every day to work,
Yeah.
and another 2.5 hours. So Tasmanians have got to get away from the fact. We keep hearing about our medical system and our yes. Nothing's perfect in this world. We can do our best and what else have you. But let me tell you, on the northwest coast here, we've got a beautiful hospital. We've got a beautiful hospital in Latrobe. 50 minutes away, we've got a fantastic hospital in Burnie. Like there's people on the mainland that's got to travel hours to hospital. Tasmanians, we've got it pretty good here, really. I think.
But the drive times, I remember my brother, he working in a coal mine in Queensland, and he'd drive 2 hours to go to Mackay to go to the movies, and then 2 hours home. Yeah. But I mean,
I can remember going to Queensland, and I was stopping with my mate, and we're going to Rockhampton for a woodchop, right? I said, okay, so what time we leave in the morning? I'll leave about 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a 6-hour drive. It was a 6-hour drive to a woodchop.
Yeah.
Here in Tasmania, oh God, we complain because we've got to travel from Devonport to Burnie to a woodchop.
But I think getting back to the jack jumpers and what they've done, they have done an amazing job. I think they've well and truly exceeded everybody's expectation, including winning the championship after, 3 years. Yeah. It's just an incredible run. And they obviously did very well selecting the coach.
Yes.
But I think what they've done really, really well is engage with the community. The people who are members, like I know my nephew, for example, is an absolute mad Jack Jumpers fan, and he gets a phone call on his birthday from one of the players. That's the level of commitment that the Jack Jumpers have got in actually engaging their community.
So I actually think that what we've done as well with the Devils, I think we're heading down the right track. If you see the background of Brendan Gale. He turned around the Richmond Footy Club.
Plus, he's from Penguin.
Plus, he's a local lad as well. But I think we're doing it right. I think we are doing it right. The same as the Jack Jumpers. I think it's about a Tasmanian team, so what it is that we're giving kids the opportunity to dream to represent Tasmania.
I think that will work especially well if there actually is that pathway and it's real. So, for example, any Tasmanian, like we get the draft concession. So if there's any Tasmanian with talent, then they get a rocket into the Devils team itself. Yeah. And that way, if that pathway's there, then it absolutely encourages. The last thing we want is just for these kids who get keen to end up somewhere else. Yeah. So if get as many Tasmanians playing in the Tasmanian team would get that pathway much more visible. If you can see it, you can be it. Yeah, and then the club will work really, really well.
I think we need to be patient as well because
exactly.
We're not going to. I think we're going to get beat, quite easily. I think for the first 2 or 3 years, and what I'd like to see, like I haven't got any football background, although I was BOG every game I played, Shane.
Yeah, is this like when you were in grade 6 or something? Biggest on ground?
Yeah, biggest on ground. Every time I played football, I was BOG. I was biggest on ground. But I just think that, let's not spend too much money on getting a real high profile.
Yeah, marquee players.
Like they're only here for the money, really, and they're only here for a couple of years. Why don't we build a structure? And because one thing I've worked about all Tasmanians is that, mate, we are fighters. We are determined, and because I know for a fact that Tasmania, I took a Tasmanian team to New Zealand once, and I was there a month beforehand with the Australian team, and the Australian team got beat by this New Zealand team, woodchopping team. I took a Tasmanian team over, and guess what? The Tasmanian team beat the New Zealand team.
Yeah.
Because for some reason we can lift, we're passionate, and you can't buy that. You cannot buy that. And how many people do you talk to, Shane, that says, I had to shift away from Tasmania to work, but I'm always a Tasmanian.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Oh, look, I've
Yeah.
family members too,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that is a very Tasmanian story. And, one of the things that I'm passionate about is creating opportunity here. And I know you are too.
Yeah.
So that people at least have got an option
Yeah.
to come back or to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to build, what we need to do in Tasmania is that we need to open up a little bit. Yes, it's great that we've got this beautiful, beautiful state and with beautiful scenery and fantastic food and what, but we can travel anywhere and get that same thing. We need to we need to have more opportunities here in Tasmania. So with a footy team, so even now, what I can see on the ground is that everybody was talking about the stadium. No, nobody talks about the stadium now. We're talking about the team, and now we are talking about a new motel in Hobart, and maybe the cable car back up on board. Now all of a sudden we can see that maybe Tasmania is prepared to maybe open up a little bit because if it's good for the world, why can't it be good for Tasmania?
I think that's completely agree. I've done a lot of travelling. I was an exchange student, and then in the Australian team, I travelled extensively. I saw a lot of things, and cable cars are something that you see everywhere. It's not unusual, but at the same time, I think I always believe that Tasmania is the best place on earth. But the reason I think that as well is because I've travelled, and a lot of people probably don't understand quite what we have here, that it is special and unique, and we live in one of the best places in the world, the safest.
So this is what I've said to people. People that complain about Tasmania has never been anywhere else. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
So, and there's also another conundrum. I think some of the people who move here don't want anything to change.
Yeah.
So and we have to try and balance that. We have to have development. We have to have things go ahead. We don't want to take a Polaroid picture and then be seeing that for the next 50, 60 years. So
I can remember when I first started my work career. Like I worked at the pulp, as a cleaner. But back in those days, if they never worked out with the pulp, we had the carpet factory, we had the towel factory, we had all these other avenues for us to build a life. Like I worked at the pulp, and I bought our first house working at the pulp. I reared my 4 kids working at the pulp. As a pulp worker, like as a normal worker. So I would really like to see some more stuff happening, so we can keep these jobs here, and so people can build a life and build a future.
But I suppose at the same time, though, those sort of workplaces where you've got 1,000 people working in a factory don't exist anymore. A brand new factory coming to Tasmania might employ 150 people.
That's
the automation.
That's the biggest killer, isn't it? That's the biggest thing, and that's why you're talking about people leaving here, and the young people leaving here, and and people they talk about all these organisations are struggling to get people to work there because unfortunately, their jobs have gone as well. And so it is a real, like I said, it's very easy for somebody like me to sit back on the fence and say, oh yeah, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. But there's so many other things out there that needs to be looked at as well. So.
Yeah, and I think getting back to that conversation about what Tasmania does really well, I think I'm a great believer in there are different ways to get better, and a lot of people focus on improving their weaknesses. So they get their weakness and we'll try and improve that. And that is a great idea, but there's another idea that gets overlooked a lot of the times, and that is to make your strengths even stronger. So make your strengths into super strengths. And I think that's something that we could work on in Tasmania is take what we've got, we do well, and then do it even better.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to do that in some of our industries, but we probably...
Like you only got to look at people like Dale Elphingston.
Exactly, yeah.
Dale Elphingston was an apprentice. You have a think about his life as an apprentice. Tasmanian, come from a family farming background, worked as an apprentice, had this dream of building a machine. Now he owns a business.
Yeah.
You take Chaz Kelly, you take Bob Clifford.
Yeah.
All these Tasmanians, and there's more of them.
Exactly.
But there's all these people that had this dream, and because we live in Tasmania, we can achieve all this. Exactly. We with a dream and a focus. and we've got the ability.
And sometimes as well that success is sort of hidden under a bushel in a way. We have Tasmanian innovators that nobody knows about.
That's exactly right.
So, for example, if you want the best oyster sorting equipment in the world, you go out to Wynyard to SED, and they're the ones who make it. One of the things that people don't talk about in the salmon industry is that the techniques and technology that's developed here in Tasmania is being used all around the world.
Yeah.
So, but yet we almost, in a way, we are humble. The people who are very successful are humble, and so we don't know about the success as well.
Yeah, we should be telling the every Tasmanian on the street that see this bloke here. Like you take Neville Smith. We're talking about like my son was working. They were down there using regrowth poles, making them into shep pellets. They're making 200 shep pellets a day out of a tree, out of trees that was going into wood chip.
That's right.
Mate, I went down and seen it.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
It is unbelievable. Yeah. Now, we should be telling people about this, that here's this little, not little, it's unbelievable down there that they're using a resource that otherwise would have went to wood chips, that we get nothing out of it. And I think they make about 200 shep pellets a day or something.
It's incredible. And like you said, they're using what was pretty much a low-grade resource into something and value adding.
Yeah, seriously, I would say 80% of Tasmanians wouldn't even know about that.
They wouldn't, no. Well, I'd say 99 probably.
Well, probably not.
But I mean, that's the story of an industry like forestry. Yeah. Everybody thinks that it's a sunset industry, that it's just about to die. The old industry is not with us anymore. You know, if you want to take native timber and cut it up into framing timber, that's just not going to happen anymore. No. But what they're actually doing is trying to use every single bit of it. Like we've got a Somerset mill that Britain's has now, veneering and making the most of it. We've got Neville Smith doing great things. But others in the industry as well are making this transition because they have to. And that story is just being completely ignored, and people on the mainland think we're just about to chop down our last tree.
Yeah, and these are the stories that I keep telling people. I keep telling people, you know, and so I think that's something that maybe us Tasmanians should be doing better. You know, is that really show people that we are world leaders. You know, we're not destroying. We're not destroying, like you hear, like I know you mentioned the salmon, right? It frustrates me. We've got to shut the salmon industry down. Shut it down. No, why don't we look at, okay, if there is a problem, we'll sort the problem out. If it's not 400,000 fish in a pen, make them 300,000 if that's the case or whatever. But don't shut the industry down. It's the same as the forest industry. They're talking about shutting it down. They're talking about shutting everything down. You can't shut it down. Like when you see there's things that are happening, you know, that's the only thing that frustrates me, is that the first thing you hear is, "Oh, we'll shut it down." You know,
well, I mean, the easy
it drives
solution.
me mad.
Well, I mean, I don't think people really understand what that would do. So, okay, if we turned around tomorrow and shut down the salmon industry, the whole of the state would feel it. There wouldn't be anybody immune. There'd be thousands of jobs lost. A community like Strawn, for example, house prices would crash, the same down the Huon. It would be shock and devastation. So I think if people don't understand that it's very simple to say, okay, just shut down an industry, but the real world outcomes would be horrific for everybody. Yeah.
So that's the only thing that frustrates me about this little state, is that sometimes we're very good knockers, ain't we? We're very good knockers.
Well, I think, and part of that is because it's actually very easy for people to form a group, the people against, or the people, you know, it could be 3 or 4 people could create a name of something, that a group that's against something, and then they're in the paper, they're on the news, they've got their Facebook page, they can build a movement out of something. If you're in Melbourne and Sydney, you just wouldn't get a look in. But in Tasmania, because we're so close to our politicians as well, but also close to being a front page of the paper.
So one thing I've also noticed as well is that when you're in Sydney and you hear about, like people say to me, all the forests are gone in Tassie. because they've been on the news. And the trouble is, with you live in Melbourne or Sydney, sometimes you might have to travel 3 or 4 hours or 4 or 5 hours out of the city before you see a forest. So therefore, shit, maybe this is true. Maybe all the trees are going. So yeah. But I mostly tell people that that's not the case.
I got a little funny anecdote. I went to the Faroe Islands as an exchange student, placed in the middle of the North Atlantic, 18 islands, and there's virtually no trees, right? So it's all grass and fjords and sort of glacial landscapes. There's no trees, right? And my friend Arnie, he came and worked on our farm for about 4 months, and I went back to him, Faroes, and people were saying, what was Tasmania like? And he's going, yeah, it was pretty nice, but you couldn't see anything because there were trees everywhere. So he was used to being able to sit on and be able to see long distances, and he couldn't in Tasmania because all these bloody trees were getting in the way.
Trees.
And I just have a bit of a chuckle about that. But different perspectives.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Yeah. So you are someone who, you have been politically active sort of in the past. So, we could probably talk about the politics of Dave Foster and what you actually, what sways you one way or the other, or what things you like to see in a politician.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I'll take my hat off to all politicians. To be honest with you, I've never voted Green because to me they are anti everything. To be honest with you, So when do you stop as a Green person? They've got to be anti everything. Otherwise they lose that power. So I have voted Labor and I voted Liberal. When I first started to vote, I asked my dad. I said, "Dad, who do you vote for?" Labor, son. Labor's for the working man. Liberals for.
I told you how much I like George.
But that was when I first got brought up, because he was a great Eric Rees man. Eric Rees was Dad and Eric Rees got on very well together. Eric Rees would go past our place at Ross, and all of a sudden the government car would come in, and Eric Rees would come and have a cup of tea with Dad. So how good was that? He was just one of those people there. Jim Bacon and I got on very, very well together. Like when I won my 1000s championship, we got a print, and there was 1,000 certificates to sign. And I went to Jim and I said, "Jim, I don't suppose you would sign these?" He said, "Yeah, no worries. Like the Premier of Tasmania, happy to sign 1,000 of these cards." So
it was more than just the mustaches then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But no, and what turned me against, to be honest with you, the Labor was many years ago, you got into bed with the Greens, and and to me they went back on what they talked about, and but no, I've supported both Labor and Liberals, and at the moment I'm on the Liberal bandwagon a bit, but no, I'm a swinging voter. Whatever's good for Tasmania. Shane, if you come up and say, "Listen, we're going to build a such and such here. We're going to do this, mate," you will get my support as well. But let me tell you, I've had the opportunity that they've been asked many times to stand at politics. But I love being David Foster. I love being that I can speak my mind. People have got respect for me, and I can be on both sides of the fence. Whatever's good for Tasmania, Shane. To be honest with you, I'm in favour. Of. So there are things that the Liberal Party have done and are doing that probably I might not agree with. But there's things that the Labor Party have done that I don't agree with. But I think without being too political or anything, but I do take my hat off for all politicians, because seriously, you and like all the rest of them are genuinely there to try to make this beautiful state a better state in your own little world.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think there's most of the motivation of a politician is to make change for the better, and we've got slightly different ideas on how to do that. Sometimes a big difference in ideas.
Yeah, there are some independents there, to be honest with you. There are some independents, without getting too much into politics, there are some independents there with their own little agenda. You know, they're anti everything, to be honest with you. And people can see through that. You know, people can see through the bullshit. You know, and it's as simple. Like, people are not dumb, and I think when you get a silent vote, when you get a vote when people can vote without being, like, if you go out there and say this, you're racist, or you're discriminating or stuff. But when you get, like, I think with the yes and the no vote was a fine example. Everybody was saying it's a 60% yes. Guess what? It was the other way around, because the silent majority out there could see the bullshit.
And that's also why we have the voting the way we do with the individual vote in the booth, where there's nobody around, nobody giving influence.
That's exactly right.
But okay, David, I've got a magic wand now, and I'm going to wave my magic wand, and you are suddenly my political advisor, and you're telling me, Shane, this is how you're going to turn the Labor Party around. So what does David Foster, Shane Broad's political advisor, tell me to do?
Get back to the old Labor ways. You get back to where you were really focused on creating jobs for the working class. You kind of, I think you've gone a bit left field from that, maybe a little bit. So politics have changed. Seriously, politics has changed that much. You know, when you've got to sometimes you've got to get in bed with people you don't want to get in bed with because of the political system. But I thought this question might come up, to be honest with you, so I had a bit of a think about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've had a bit of a think about it, because I knew I was coming here, and I knew there'd be, and I was going to say, well, maybe if he said if he had a wand. But no, I honestly think all this pine at Burnie, why are we sending that away? Okay, Shane Broad, we're going. You know what we're going to do? We are going to start our own sawmill here. We've got the beautiful area there where the old pulp was. Where instead of shipping all these pine trees away, we are going to process these here. Okay, we are going to create jobs. Yes, it might be some robots there, but what we're going to do, we're not going to keep sending all of our products away. Every day there are truckloads of sheep leaving it here to go to the mainland to be slaughtered and brought back
in boxes,
mate,
wrapped in plastic.
How ridiculous, when you think about that, is that there's little things like that that you could make a difference here straight away. In this, there's two things already.
Yeah. Well, I must admit,
we're not going to ship all our sheep away. We're going to slaughter them here, and we're going to create jobs, and because all of a sudden those workers there are going to buy coffees and what else have you. But what frustrates me when I see all this pine, the amount of effort that we've gone in growing these fantastic pine trees, and we're sending them all away. Oh, for God's sake. We had these fantastic mills at Scottsdale. Remember the fantastic Ozpine.
Yeah.
Mate, they were doing fantastic jobs down there, and all of a sudden closed up. So
there we go.
Little steps, mate. Little steps. You're not going to change, because all of a sudden you're going to get all these anti people on your side. You're going to have people outside your door waving, say you're a bloody, how dare you try to, kill sheep here when we should be sending them away, and all that sort of bullshit stuff. But no, seriously, Shane, I reckon just get back to. I watched your one of the things on Facebook the other day where you were talking about the spirits. You was outside, you're showing okay, yes, it's been a bullshit. Seriously, it has. Yeah. Everybody, it makes no matter what side of the world that what's happened there now. But what you made a point was, how exciting is this going to be? They're taking bookings now, and for anybody that has seen these new ships, they are world class.
It's very exciting.
Honestly, it is exciting. Forget all Forget the rubbish that we've had. We should be okay. Yes, we should never forget that. But yes, be excited that these ships, when they come here, they're magnificent. I've had the opportunity to see them, the same as you have. Aren't they just world class?
Absolutely. And like I keep
Exciting.
saying, they will change the state.
Mate.
Just like when the first Spirits arrived, one of the best decisions that Jim Bacon made was the 2 ferries.
Yes.
And he stared down the Liberals at the time who wanted a catamaran.
Yeah.
And he bought them. And I remember I was a younger man then that it changed.
Yep.
The state just took off. That was an amazing decision.
Yeah.
And I think it'll happen again.
Yeah, it will. And I honestly believe with the stadium, I know it's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But I honestly believe I won't be here in 20 years' time, probably. But I'm telling you now, in 20 years' time, if they look back at this podcast and they'll say that I think David Foster says that this stadium will change it'll change Tasmania for the better. I honestly believe that it's just going to create so much pride and wealth. So I really do take my hat off for the people that did stand up and say, you know what? Okay, I understand. You and I have probably still got debt. We've always had debt. Everybody you talk to, if you're going to have anything in life, it's going to be in debt. But if we can create wealth with that debt, it's not a bad debt. It might take us a long time to get paid for or what else have you. But just the way that people are thinking now, that the investment is coming. You know, people are now looking at building cafes and restaurants and motels and, you know, the excitement already. My good mate from South Australia, well, I went to South Australia, we're talking about the stadium, and anyway, he said, I want to take you somewhere. He took me to Adelaide Oval. There was no football, there was no cricket, and every conference area was chock-a-block with people having conferences and meetings. The cafes were full, mate. I honestly believe that this is going to be a real game changer. Same as these ships, and I think Tassie's going to head in the right direction.
Yeah. So, what does the future for David Foster look like then? You said you've given yourself a timeline. Hopefully you've got more than 20 years.
Yeah, well,
what sort of things are you passionate about that you want to keep working on?
Yeah, I've got a 17-year-old grandson that's just started wood chopping, and he's given me that energy again. He brings me up every night, and which is fantastic. Like he's living down at Ewanville with his dad, Stephen. So that's passionate. I'm very lucky that I'm working for Clubs Tasmania at the moment. So that gives me the opportunity, like we talked about earlier on, the RSL clubs and all these sporting clubs, we depend on volunteers. And unfortunately, volunteers don't know the rules and regulations, so you're underpaying people or what else have you. So I've got this opportunity now to go to these clubs and sporting organisations and ask them whether they're okay, whether they're travelling okay. Can we help them out in some way? But we've got 70 different partners, all different levels that we can go to a club and say, hey, listen, do you want some help with or something, So I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that. Unfortunately, my wife, I'm a carer for my wife at the moment. I don't like to use the word carer, but Jan 15 years ago had a very bad brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately now that's causing she's got early stage of dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever. So I'm a carer for Jan as well. So therefore I'm very lucky that I've got great people around me. I've got Steve Old. I've got so much time for Steve Old. He's given me this opportunity to work for Clubs Tasmania, and people, like I said at the Cup, even these younger people still know of David Foster, which is quite nice. Like I go to the pub and like I don't mind having a beer, as you can probably tell. Don't mind a feed as well, as you can tell.
You got to fuel that engine.
Oh, it's a big engine, mate. It's a big engine. No, just hopefully at the end of the day, Tasmania has given me the opportunity to be one of the best athletes in the world, without big noting. Okay, so if I can give something back to this state, And if I go and speak to the grade 9 boys at St Brendan Shore about their next stage in their life, following their dreams, working hard, believing themselves. And I've had parents come to me and say, my son came home the other day and they didn't know that David Foster won this and what else have you, which, so if I can change one person's life, and I reckon that's what motivates yourself as well, and all the other politicians out there, and everybody that's got a virtually high profile, is that if we can make a little bit difference and give people the opportunity to believe and dream, how lucky are we?
Exactly. Well, I know that you've got much more to give, and that passion for Tasmania certainly shines through. So thank you very much for coming on the broadcast and sharing that with us.
It's been great, Shane, and all jokes aside, congratulations to you as well, because I know that you are passionate. I've been watching you. I know politics is politics, but politics is still about human beings. And I think to be a good person in this world makes no matter what colour you are, what background you are. We're all human beings out here for a reason, to try to do our best.
Thanks very much, Dave. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Now, if you like content like this, remember to like, share and subscribe to this channel, and we'll get great people on like David Foster and keep going. We might even try and get him back later on some other stage. But for now, that's all we've got for today. Thanks for listening to the broadcast.